is real. Presented by Tops. Check out Tops Project 70 celebrating 70 years of Tops baseball cards. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic, with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's happening, Eric? How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. Where are you at?
I'm in New York.
That looks like a suite for New York. What
I,
hotel are you at? That's a nice room.
not really. It looks better than it is. I'm Midtown, Garment District. A short walk to the Bryant Park subway. First road trip, regular season road trip since first road trip since the other than a week of spring training this year, since the St. Louis playoff series. Yeah, in 2019.
Feel good
Because
to
it didn't do
travel.
any last year. Last year I was going to World Series before the Braves got beat. So yeah, it's cool, man. It's great being on the road again, especially in New York. It's not quite as crowded as usual. Subway, the 7 train was about 1/3 as crowded as usual, if that, which is shocking. Take the subway at 1:30 and there's hardly anybody on it. But
Yeah.
1:30 in the afternoon. I took it again at 1:30 at night, and there was about to say just a few less people on it. So, but yeah, it's cool being here, man. Great weather so far, and on to Cincinnati from here. So, um, Braves, 2 double headers in 2 days. And the amazing thing was they got them all in. I was thinking rain might bang at least a couple of those games, but they avoided rain in Atlanta and then avoided it here yesterday when the forecast was about 40-50% for thunderstorms. So they got them all in, split 4 games, and the 2 that they won, they won 1-0 on Ronald Acuna home runs. I mean, come on, this guy. It's
That ball he hit yesterday.
oh
If you're a pitcher off the bat, you kind of feel like you got away with one.
yeah,
I mean, you hung a slider and then you see it, the angle he hits it at, and you're like, all
yeah,
right, outfielder might catch that or it might sneak past him for a double. When that thing
yeah.
goes out of the yard,
It's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous.
I mean, can anybody else do that in big leagues right now? I'm sure there's
Stanton,
somebody,
probably
huh?
Stanton can hit a
Yeah,
ball like that.
but he
But
rarely hits them on lines like that, right? That low.
well, he hits some to right field that are pretty low,
Yeah,
and he stands there and you're like, damn, he got that. And then it gets out by 20 rows. But
yeah.
to dead center and even kind of tailing away like that.
And then he gets hurt the next day, Stanton, though.
Yeah. And he's probably got 80 pounds on Acuna. I mean, he's probably 250, 240.
Acuna's probably about 185 now, 190 maybe. Yeah, and Stanton's a good 240.
I would
250.
think, or 235. But I mean, even then, I mean, he's 40 pounds on him.
I think more than that, probably closer to 60, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like 6, because Stanton's like 6'6".
I don't know. He's massive, but just to be able to hit balls like a guy that big.
6'1".
Yeah.
6'1" tops.
It's incredible he can hit balls that hard.
With a 30.5 ounce bat.
I know. I heard that too. He swings a light bat.
One of the smallest bats in the majors. Yeah, the guy from Louisville Slugger told me that the other day.
Because Chipper swung a heavy bat.
34.
Yeah, he swung a heavy bat, and that's why guys thought he had all that opposite field power, was because it was such a heavy bat he could just kind of drag it into it. But Acuna's just pure bat speed.
Little Ozzie Albies swings a much bigger bat than Acuna.
Does he?
Yeah. How about, remember Julio Franco?
Mm-hmm.
He had like one of the last really big bats in the majors.
Like a 36.
It was a big bat. It was like a piece of lumber, like a tree compared to what some guys are swinging. Back in the day, everybody swung them that heavy,
Yeah, I think you get away with that, with velocity being lower.
Yeah.
Guys are throwing 89 and 92. Yeah. You got to get around on 100. It's going to be tough with a 35-ounce bat.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, that was ridiculous. I mean, and we'll get to this later, but to follow throwing out a dude with a 97 on an outfield assist, 97 miles an hour. I mean, that's crazy. This dude he's unique. So Ian Anderson in the nightcap yesterday, the 1-0 game, pitched 5 1/3 innings, 3 hit ball, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And he became the first, this is kind of an obscure trivia, he became the first native of New York State to beat the Mets and the Yankees in New York in the same season ever. Which is kind of, you'd have to have interleague games, obviously, or switch teams in the middle of the season, all that. So, it's not like a ton of guys probably have tried, but he's the first. It's pretty cool.
I mean, I remember just pitching against the Mariners for the first time. It meant something to me. They'd released me, but anytime it's your hometown team, I came up playing for them, so I didn't get that chance. But to beat both teams,
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously going to be a fan of one of them, so you get to beat your team you're a fan of and the team that was their rival. That's pretty cool for him.
Well, and he's from upstate New York, so everybody was either a Red Sox or Yankees fan, he said, and he's beat all three of them now. He's beat all three of them at their places now.
Damn.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, while I was looking at stats this morning, I noticed it was the sixth straight game in which he's allowed either no runs or 4 runs. He's had 3 of each in his past 6 starts. But he went 6, 7, and 5 1/3 in the 3 games where he allowed no runs. And he started that right before that stretch. He had a game where he gave up 1 run. So he's had a nice stretch here. Last 7 starts where he's got a 3.19 ERA, 217 opponents average, 606 opponents OPS. That's really strong, solid. And 36 strikeouts, 11 walks, and only 2 homers allowed in 36 2/3 innings. So he's averaging a little over 5 innings. So he's gotten a lot closer to what he was last year. Not quite that good yet, but that's real solid. They'll take that anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day where the team would be if it didn't break his hand.
Yeah, because the starters have really come around a lot.
Yeah, they've stepped up.
Yeah, that was or not to mention if Soroka had been healthy. I mean, they had the makings of a 5 there that would have been.
But he kind of got some good news. I didn't really understand what the
that was good because the Braves had not explained anything. And I don't know why they just didn't come out and say when they were talking about how we got to wait a few weeks to see if it took, and they wouldn't explain what that was. It was a cleaning out procedure. Alex said, we got to wait and see how it check. They could have just come out and said what they found in there, which was the sutures were rejected by his body. The Achilles was perfectly fine. It had healed, but it was the sutures that were causing inflammation. His body was rejecting them and fighting it. That's all it was.
So, okay. So basically normally they would just absorb into his body.
Absorb into the Achilles. Yeah.
And so they were just sitting there.
On top, apparently on top of the tissue. And it was inflamed because his body had rejected. He said it's happened some, but it's rare.
Yeah. So then they just took those out and they don't have to do anything else, but because they opened it, he needs some time.
Maybe they cleaned up inflammation or whatever that around it, but that's it. They didn't have to do anything to the structure of the Achilles at all, which is why Alex thought he could get back this year.
Yeah, that's best case scenario.
Right. Soroka, though, you could tell he's had enough of these setbacks, and he's going to be really smart about it because he said, I love the optimism. It makes me want to get to the park every day and work hard and all that, but he's going to make sure that he's ready before he isn't going to push it because they are certain now, or he's certain, and he thinks, and the trainers are, that the shoulder thing was a result of him favoring that inflamed Achilles because he couldn't push off right. That's where he was feeling it.
Yeah.
Because it didn't look right. It was inflamed. And he said once he got the sutures taken out, like a week later, the calf looked fine again, normal again for the first time. It wasn't inflamed and swollen.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I didn't completely understand it when the article came out, but I guess that's best case scenario. So
he should be perfectly fine next year, if not the end of this year. When he gets, there should be nothing slowing him down now.
Yeah.
Because the Achilles is healed, and it did nothing. They did nothing to it in pushing it to get back and all that. So
good.
So we'll see. But Ian Anderson last night asked him about the 6 sticky substance checks. Yesterday was the first day of the new sticky substance enforcement rules, and they are enforcing them. I haven't watched everything, but I don't think anybody was caught yesterday on the first day. They'd be kind of stupid to get caught.
Nobody's going to get caught.
All the starters were checked before or when they came off the field after the first inning, at least the doubleheader that I saw, 4 starters. When they came off the field after the 4th inning, it was funny because first guy to do it is with the Mets. You're talking about God walking off, and they booed like crazy when their guy is checked at the first baseline and they stop him, DeGrom, and they check the hat, the belt, and the glove. And it's like an interrogation. That like two or three, I think it was two umps, came up and they kind of stop him. And DeGrom's like, what? Because he acted like he didn't know that was when they were going to do it. But everybody's booing like crazy. It only took about 20 seconds. They check his hat, his glove, and then you could tell they asked him to check his belt because he was kind of like, really? You could tell. And he has to like pull the belt down in the front, and show them.
Yeah.
And all this is right on the first baseline for the dugout. But like I said, it was quick. They let it pass, and then they did the same to Ian Anderson in his game, all four starters. And then later, Ian, they checked him after like the fourth or the fifth inning. They checked each of the starters after like the fourth or fifth inning, probably the fourth because they wanted to make sure they were still in the game. And they checked them, to make sure they didn't load up anything in the interim. So, but that was it. That was the extent of it. I'm not sure about what they're going to do with relievers, if that's going to be a random thing.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, you can't. The thing is about it is anytime there's a pitching change, you got time. The next guy has to warm up. So they could they could check every single reliever.
I heard
people getting worked up over it, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's good. You've seen offense go up.
I read they checked, I didn't notice it, but they checked Diaz last night.
I saw that.
As he was coming in the game, right? Coming in, not after.
Well, yeah, because if you bust him after, it's a little too late.
Right, because if you give up a walk off, or if you give up a walk off, or if you get the last out, they're not going to stop you when your team's celebrating and
say it doesn't count. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's what they're doing with the relievers, I guess. So it's going to be interesting to watch it, but nobody seemed to mind. Ian said it's different, but it's going to be part of it going forward. Just going to have to deal with it. I said, I think it's kind of random. He said they checked him in the first inning. Then he said, I think it's kind of random after that. They got me again in either the fourth or fifth inning. I don't know if it's any different with a 9-inning game because these were 7-inning games yesterday, obviously, doubleheader. But I think that's going to be kind of the process going forward. So they checked the hat glove and then the belt. They were kind of checking. That's the message they've kind of come across with. So I think that's the way pitchers are looking at it. I think most of them probably don't mind because most of them aren't using the sticky stuff. So even if they were using a little something, they probably feel like the other guys were really cheating and they weren't. So they would rather just all of it be eliminated than, nothing. So
that's where my head would be at. I mean, it kind of goes back to the steroid era when if it was almost, you were at such a disadvantage if you weren't using it. And so I don't blame guys that during the, in the hottest point where everybody was on it, if you jumped on it in 2000 or 2001 and you were a middle of the road guy and it was either I'm going home or I got to do this. I mean,
sure,
guys were in a really tough position, but I think even back then, everybody just wanted the game clean. There was a few guys that were like, they fell off the face of the earth. And then there's other guys who maybe had a lower dosage that didn't affect too much, but kind of the same thing with this, it's going to be awkward. And if you were using pine tar or something kind of sticky, that helped a little bit, but the guys that took it to the extreme with the adhesive, you're going to see a drastic difference in those guys' spin rates and their numbers. But, I think any pitcher would be stupid to use it now because there are going to be those checks and you're going to get everything you've accomplished in the last 2 or 3 years is going to get taken away.
Yep.
So if you've had 2 or 3 really good years and, your spin rate drops 100 or 200 and you keep battling, people can make their assumptions, but if you get caught with it, it's going to be, you were cheating and this is the only reason you were good. You're going to get discredited everything you've done. So, I mean, that's the big risk.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Theoretically, this could keep some guys out of the Hall of Fame if they get caught. If they're those kind of guys and they were noted for having a big spin rate, and especially if they had a spin rate that increased at some point in their career, whether it's fair or not, because it's probably not fair, but guys are going to look at it like they did steroids.
Yeah.
And it will keep some guys out if they get banged for it, suspended for 10 games. And not to mention, most of the managers, I think, put the fear of God in players because Snit talked to his players about it and told them, look, if you get banged, we can't replace you. So that's a huge deal. That's the difference. That's what MLB was smart about.
Yeah.
Because if they let the team replace that pitcher, I think it wouldn't be quite the
you're only hurting yourself.
Right. It wouldn't have quite the same effect to stop guys if they think they're hurting their teammates because they know their teams are going to be going the hell, man? You killing
Well,
us.
starters go shorter than they've ever gone now. So if you lose a reliever for 10 games and you're just a man short down there, and that screws your pen. And it screws your whole team for 10 days. So
How about if you lose a starter?
yeah.
Think about that.
Well, you're gonna lose a reliever though, because they'll call up a starter. I mean, you know what I mean? You're gonna be down a reliever in the pen in the big picture because you're gonna replace that starter. You're gonna have a four-man rotation. But if you lose Ian Anderson for two starts right now, yeah, that kills you.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to bullpen games on those days, or move a guy from the bullpen to start.
Yep.
So either way, yeah, if you're a pitcher and you do it knowingly and get caught, your teammates are going to be.
Yeah.
Dude,
They were
you
smart
knew.
about that.
Yeah, so I think this is going to have it's going to have the effect they wanted. Now it's just going to be interesting to see what the resultant offense is like.
It seems like I don't have any numbers, but it
Yeah.
seems like there's been a lot more 7, 8 run games than there was a week ago, and there hasn't been any no hitters.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to tell from the Braves games because you had DeGrom pitch in one of them. It doesn't matter. He's filthy as usual. The only thing with him right now is he's only going 5 or 6 innings most games because he's trying to stay healthy. He's got all these little nagging things. So the Braves kind of dared him to swing yesterday, and he wasn't going to. But he gave him a pitch to hit, and he swung and hit that pop up, but he wasn't going to swing. But they intentionally walked the guy to bring up. DeGrom was hitting like close to 400.
Yeah. I know. I was like, I hope this doesn't backfire.
Yeah. The way things are going with Snit, you thought it was going to backfire.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. The weirdest thing I saw DeGrom do yesterday was walk Muller on a bunch of sliders to get to Acuna. And that was when he kind of started, he looked like he lost a little confidence or comfort. And I was like, maybe he's hurt again or something's going on. But that was just an awkward at bat.
3 straight sliders up.
Yeah.
On Muller, who's 6'7",
and walked him on a 3-2 slider with nobody on to face Acuna. I was just kind of like, is he calling this? Does he want to work on his slider? Is he so good he just wants to work on his slider for Acuna?
It was almost like DeGrom got wind of Muller's batting practice the other day.
That's fine, but Acuna's on deck.
I know.
I don't care who's up.
I know, no doubt. He had commented on it. Yeah, he was just missing with that slider because he commented on that walk. It got away from it, but it was weird. Muller even said, because I said, well, you did hit 15 homers as a senior in high school. You're one of the biggest home run hitters in high school ball that year. He goes, yeah, but some of the kids I was facing in high school, that's a little different than facing DeGrom.
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, that wasn't all skill. There was some luck involved. He said if he'd have thrown me the same slider that he was throwing all the rest of the guys on the team, I would have been out.
On 2 pitches.
Yeah. But we'll get to that in a minute. But hey, Cam, you want to sell some ads, man? Make some money on this thing?
Yeah, let's do this. And as David, you said at the top of the show, we're sponsored by Topps Project 70. Topps is celebrating the 70th anniversary of its very first baseball card design with a new program that pushes boundaries while paying homage to their heritage. And for Topps, they were able to enlist the help of some very revered artists, illustrators, animators, and even a rapper by the name of Snoop Dogg. You may or may not have heard of him, including Jeff Staple, Tyson Beck, and Alex Party. Each artist will select their own MLB players and Topps designs from any year to craft a unique story. Have you guys ever wondered what Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle would look like on a 1980s Topps design? Or how about Fernando Tatis Jr., a classic template from the 1950s? Or even about Ronald Acuna Jr. potentially in a 1980s design, which should be coming out next week. And we'll talk about that more when it comes up. But make sure to check out these cards. Are only available for 70 hours after they're put up on Topps.com. And once they're gone, they are gone for good. So make sure to head over to Topps.com to learn more about Project 70 and to check out which cards are live right now. And hey, today, many small business owners are busier than ever because they are so focused on managing and growing their business. They can't always spend the time they wish they could on recruiting. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has made it easier to find and hire the best candidates for free. Get started by posting your job for free to reach LinkedIn's network of 740 million professionals. Fill out targeted screening questions to get your role in front of the most qualified candidates with the experience, skills, and motivation you need. Then use simple tools to filter and prioritize the top candidates you'd like to interview. LinkedIn Jobs will help you hire the right person for your role. And your first job post is free. Just visit linkedin.com/real. That's REAL. Again, linkedin.com/real to post your first job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Is that it?
Yeah, we have a couple more, but we can get to those later. Let's keep rolling on.
Jeez, man.
That's
That
good,
like
though.
That's like War and Peace, that ad. What's up with that, man? Come on, Topps. You need an editor. Just kidding. Buy Topps, man. Topps, the finest baseball cards in America. Hands down. As long as they're paying our bills. So anyway, let's get back to before we were so rudely interrupted by Cam there. What were we talking about? So yeah, he pitches Ian pitched really well in that 1-0 win in the second game. But of course, the story of that game was Acuna, as it usually is, the story of this Braves season, and plenty more seasons to come, I'm sure, with the Braves. This guy, truly, where would the Braves be right now without Acuna this season, dude?
No good.
No good.
Not a good spot.
I mean, this guy, he is I said that they could at least afford to lose Freddie before the season started, but I think I would have to reassess and say Acuna at this point. But either one of them you don't want to do without. But Acuna, he does everything, man. He had an assist last night on a 97-point-something-mile-an-hour throw from right to nail Pete Alonso trying to go from first to third. And later in the game, Alonso didn't even try it. He went first to second, said, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to third. But, I mean, it was 97, dude. As a pitcher, you can appreciate that.
Man, the cool thing is they showed us a video of him from the side, and it's all the positions you'd want a pitcher to get in to throw efficiently and really well. And he hasn't worked on that. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
He probably plays catch before the games. If you took a guy like him and got him off the mound consistently, he could throw 100. I mean, he could do everything on the field. I thought the best part of that play, though, was Riley being smart. That throw was going to run right into Alonso. Riley came up and got in front of it. He took 2 or 3 steps in front of third base.
Yeah.
For me, that was such a smart play because almost every third baseman sits there and waits. It bounces off of Alonso, maybe even deflects and scores a run.
Yeah.
He got up, cut it off in front, reached back and tagged him. That was just an instinct play that I was really impressed with Riley.
I think Riley might be the most underrated defensive player in the league. Seriously, this guy is really good. I know he's made some errant throws this year, and those he'll work through that. That's just, that's trying to rush things and not having the timing down yet or whatever, getting a little careless. But the plays he makes, the fielding plays he makes are phenomenal. And he's got a cannon for an arm, too.
He has a great arm, too.
He made 3 plays in that doubleheader yesterday that were terrific diving plays where he showed reflexes of somebody, of a 160-pound point guard.
Yeah.
And this dude's like 250 pounds, 240
Yeah, he can
pounds.
move.
He can move. Made 2 plays going to his left, 1 going to his right, I think it was. But the play he made that nearly ended the game, he makes that diving stab, saves a run, and then dives back and almost
got him.
Almost had an game-ending double play, which would have been a highlight reel forever. But they overturned it because the replay showed he got back. But terrific plays he made over there.
The nice thing about him is, he's a big boy, but I don't think he manufactured that in the weight room. I think that's just who he is. And for me, that's always a big deal because certain guys that want to bulk up and have that power, you lose something by putting on all that muscle because it's not how your body naturally functions. For him to just be that big and strong and still be able to move the way he can. Yeah. I don't worry about injuries or him breaking down later in his career. That's just who he is. His arm, I mean, you can watch him throw too, and he didn't build it in the weight room. Like he can just move fluid, have fluid movements at that weight. But it is surprising to see a guy that big still be able to move like that.
Yeah, you don't worry about him getting like obliques and intercostals, like diving and all this and swinging. He's had like a knee thing, but not the other stuff that you would see from somebody that's over shredded. But to your point, this is a guy that could easily carry 270 pounds if he was like playing football or he just wanted to bulk up. Because you look at him and he's not like he's just thick and built, but he's not ripped. He's not shredded. He's not vascular, you know?
Yeah.
He's just that's natural, that physique he's got, you know, from the waist down. He's just a big boy.
This country strong.
Big base, big hips. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a defensive player. I think people that talked about, you know, that he was a liability at 30, he's not. He's just made a few throwing errors that are stand out, but overall his defense is really strong. But
that's what I don't know. What are the metrics on his defense? Do you have anything on that? If he scores well,
I'd have to look at it. He scores well in some, and the throwing errors that kind of bring it down a little bit for like defensive run saved and stuff. But
that's an easy thing to clean up, though.
Yeah. The field, the range is outstanding. But getting back to Acuna, who I think is truly the best 5-tool player in the major leagues, and I don't think there's anybody close. You could say Tatis, but for 5 tools, I'm going Acuna, man. Hitting for high average, power, throwing arm, fielding, and running. I mean, this guy does everything and does it all exceptionally.
Yeah.
He's hitting 290 with a 401 OBP, 614 slug, and a 1015 OPS. It's third best in the majors. And that's even after having a down few weeks, you know, after that start he had. But he's on an uptick now again. 20 homers, tied for fourth most in the majors, trails only Tatis in the NL. When he led off the 5th inning, that homer off Castro, who had just entered the game, Castro has been going, what the hell, man? He enters the game, and he hits a line drive off of him to center field. That was like, when it came off the bat, I mean, the center field camera view, you look at that home, you just don't see home runs hit like that. The way that thing screamed at the center field camera.
I'm telling you, man, as a pitcher, when it comes off the bat at that angle, you know you made a bad pitch, but you think you got away with one.
Yeah.
You know, like David Wright hit a ball like that off me, and they caught it 20 feet in front of the track. You know, and that's what your mind says when it comes off at that low trajectory. He didn't pull it. You know, if a guy pulls a ball at that angle to left center or left field line, you're like, shit, that might sneak out.
Right.
But when you hit it to dead center, especially at Citi Field, you think you got away with one, and then you turn around. I mean, my jaw would just drop as a pitcher. I would just be like, well, this dude's the best in the world.
You go from being a pitcher thinking that ball might hit me in the head to turning, and that ball's out of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not much of an exaggeration. The way it came off the bat, for a second, it was that low, and it just kept going up, man.
It's incredible.
He is I haven't seen one hit like that this year. It was 115 point whatever off the bat, and that didn't even do it justice.
No.
The third hardest exit velo on a Braves home run since StatCast started in 2015, and he's got the other two that were harder.
Does he?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Aaron Judge, probably Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani hit some crazy home runs. Stanton. I mean, I can't think of too many other guys that could hit a ball like that, and those guys are all way bigger than him.
Way bigger than him. Nobody his size that I could think of said Tatis can hit.
Tatis could probably do something like that.
That's about it, man.
Yeah,
that's about it. That are his weight, under 200 pounds. Yeah, he's so for the second day in a row, it was the only scoring in a 1-0 win. How many guys do you think? I don't know if you've seen this stat yet, but how many guys do you think in the modern baseball era have hit home runs in consecutive 1-0 team wins?
I know it's barely anybody. It was like one dude.
One other guy. And it was recent. And it's a guy you would never, if you gave 250 guesses, you'd never pick him. 1,000 guesses, you might not pick him.
Who was it?
Joe Panic.
Okay.
Joe Panic did it in 2018 with the Giants. And here's the crazy shit about that one. Panic hit 4 home runs all year, and he hit 2 of them on March 29th and March 30th in 1-0 wins.
Well, I guess you got a better shot at doing
it.
You got a better shot at doing it in that pitcher's park in San Francisco. You know, I mean
being 1-0 games.
Yeah, being a low scoring game, but still.
Yeah, I don't know if they were at home or not. I should have checked that, but
and how many of them threw a guy out in the same game?
Oh God, I know. Yeah,
0.
To save a run. Yeah. So now, and Acuna's got 20 home runs already. We're not halfway into the season yet. Panic hit 4 in the whole year. So, left the bat at 115.7. And I asked Snit about having a guy that's accounted for the only run in 2 straight wins with a home run. And Snit says, that's just a special player this kid is. He said, like I say, it's like he's in the backyard every night. It's no stress, nothing. Just in the backyard playing ball. He likes playing ball, and I would too. If I had his skill set, I would love to be out there every day. He said, and then Acuna came in the Zoom room after Snit, asked him told him what Snit had said about him, just looking like he's having fun. And Acuna kind of smiled and said, that's how I've always been. I'm going to always go out and try and enjoy myself, have fun. It's the big leagues, no doubt. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and not have fun. I'm going to give 100%, but I'm always going to go out and try to have fun. And he does, man. You would think maybe we're in the 3rd, 4th year of his career now that it would start to get a little bit more of a job for him and a little less of that joy. Not at all. If he's the same as he was, if not more so.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a home run and he celebrates like it's his first one. Good for him.
Well, that was funny too, running around the bases like this.
Yeah.
Because
he's the new Chipper, even more so though.
Yep. And
Chipper never egged him on quite like that.
No, I was watching that like, all right, but that's never going away. Every time he's in New York from now, but that's cool because he's amping it up. But every time he's in New York, those fans are going to boo him so loud every time from now on. But I think he doesn't feel pressure. That's not going to phase him. It's almost like that'll make him better. So that'll be a fun thing to watch in the future.
Oh, he said he loved it. I love getting booed. They were booing me like crazy. Some guys that might bother him. He's the opposite. He's like Chipper. Chipper loved it. It was that mutual respect thing. Although Chipper would have never done that. Let's go, or do the hands like Acuna did that after he crossed play. Chipper would have never done that. But Chipper said something. You remember what he said? After they eliminated the Mets late in the season with Chipper won the MVP that year, and they were killing the Mets. It was close racing down the stretch. The Braves beat them every time. Chipper was just going crazy. After the one series that came in, I think they swept them. And Chipper said, now all the Mets fans can go get their Yankee gear. Put it on. That was it. After that, the boos were like every time they said his name at Citi Field or Shea Stadium. It was like crazy.
Yeah, well, this will do the equivalent. Running around the bases like this that'll be equivalent to that.
Now they can go get their Yankee gear. But he was doing that. And he was doing this, coming around the bases while he's running. And he said it got quiet. I was telling him, let's go. What are you doing? He's fun to watch, man. But there's going to be, I think, that same kind of relationship, that mutual respect, because they know he's such a hell of a player, like they did Chipper, So at the same time, they'll boo him. And then the day he retires, they'll give him a standing ovation like they did Chipper.
Yeah. This will be a long ways away. It'll be a lot of fun in between.
There'll be a whole generation of Mets fans come before he retires, probably. But Snit said, asked him about doing that and the 97.3 mile an hour throw for an assist in the same game. And Snit said, oh my God, you're seeing all the tools. That's for sure. He amazes me. I mean, the home run, I thought the home run he hit in Philly might've been the hardest hit ball I've ever seen, but that right there tonight might be one of the hardest hit balls I've ever seen in my life. And then that play, he said, I've said this before, he's a weapon in right field. He's a weapon when you challenge him. He's one of those guys that there's not a player that he doesn't think a play that he doesn't think he can make, and rightfully so. And that's true. That confidence is just enormous, man.
I mean, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to have that ability and go out and play with it. I mean,
to know it's there, that you can just do things that other people cannot do or even dream about doing.
I was watching DeGrom pitch and just thinking how much, it's easy to have fun when you have all that. How much fun would it be to just sit 100 for 7 innings and throw your slider wherever you want? Or, if you're Acuna, you don't even have to. That was probably the best thing is he got a hanging slider middle in, and he didn't try to pull it. He can hit it dead center on a line. If you had that power, how much fun is it to just sit back and wait for your pitch?
Yeah. Yeah, and DeGrom, you're talking. Everybody's wondering, why he signed with the Mets, re-signed with the Mets, or that they're wasting DeGrom, or that he's not having much fun. I think DeGrom has a ball because he's so good, and I think he sees it as, he wants to win, sure, but every game he's out there to dominate, And if he does his job, he did his job. But I don't think he gets any less enjoyment out of the fact that they haven't. I mean, he'd love to win a World Series and all that, but he's having a good time. You can tell. DeGrom enjoys being close to perfect every time he goes out there. He tries.
Well, and the way they treat you in New York when you're a superstar,
yeah,
there's nowhere like that. I even got when I had a 35 ERA and sucked in New York. I got recognized when I went around town. I mean, it was negative energy, but I went out with DeGrom a few times, and it's like the crowd just parts, and you walk to your table at the restaurant or whatever. I don't think that's really his thing, what he gets off on, but you get treated pretty damn well. I wouldn't want to play anywhere else if I was that good.
I mean, he gets treated like that in New York, and he gets to play Leonard Skinner's Simple Man when he's warming up. I mean, who else could do that in New York? You got to be damn good.
Yeah.
And it sounds good. It's in New York playing over the loudspeakers, but it sounds great. Then he goes out there and just does his thing, man.
Yeah, he's another guy that should never wear another uniform.
Yeah.
Even if he starts to fall off a little bit, they should keep him around till the end. So he just wears that one jersey his whole career.
It's got the same feel to me that Bumgarner did in San Francisco.
Yep.
Even when they got bad, he was still good. And he warmed up to Simple Man too, as a matter of fact, from North Carolina. But it was either him or it was either that or oh God, I forgot the other one. But anyway, but like you'd be in San Francisco on a Sunday afternoon game and he's warming up and that's playing over the speakers there. It was just so natural. I mean, it just feels it would be weird to see DeGrom in another uniform, just like it is Bumgarner still to see him in an Arizona uniform. But talking about Ian Anderson, Anderson said he was talking about that assist because Ian was pitching. And he said he's special. When he threw that guy out, I was thinking, man, I haven't had a break like that in a while because that was an incredible play. And then to hit that home run, 2 solo home runs and 1-0 wins is pretty impressive because that speaks to the pitch. And Ian said that speaks to the pitching too. I think we're starting to find our groove a little bit. I think he's right. I think this starting rotation has really made some progress in the last couple of weeks, considering guys they've lost and all that, and, that are waiting to get back. And I think they've done a pretty good job. Smiley has really stepped up. I know everybody bailed on him. And they're still waiting for him to come around, and they're suspect that he can keep it going. But that last start was what they signed. That's the guy they were looking for.
Yeah, he's been a lot better. I mean, I was thinking it was Shane Green too. Like new teams and stuff. Shane Green hasn't gotten off to a good start. A new team, new situation, finding that comfort level for Green, getting that late start, coming in. It's almost like something. It always works out like that, where you get off to this rough start and everybody wants to quit on you, but. I mean, it's going to take if he pitches like this for another 2 months, still nobody's going to believe in him. I mean, it's going to take a long time to prove himself, but I mean, you just got to take it start by start and as a person, as when you're yourself, you got to just let all that go and forget it, because it's easy to get wrapped up and nobody believes in me. But I mean, it's a tough spot to be in when you get off to a rough start with a new team.
Yeah, and an $11 million contract when they're going, man, we could have used that money to sign relievers, bring Melanson back, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
To his credit, he said after those bad starts that he couldn't give up on his long season and that he wasn't going to give up on himself. He knows how good he can be, and he's going to take it start by start. And that's what he's done. I mean, he has taken it game by game. And even when he's pitched really well the last couple of times, he said, it's a long season. I got to just keep going out and doing the thing. I can't get carried away. And it's just, but he's done a really good job of, and he's been through this. He's had seasons where he struggled like crazy. He's had a long career and it's not been that great at times. Got a lot of injuries. So he's had overcome adversity. So seems to take it well and keep it in perspective and not let the reaction from Atlantans who really are, upset with him. It hasn't gotten to him. So to his credit.
Well, it's really easy to say all that stuff. It's a lot harder to believe it.
Yeah.
But especially when there's kind of this cloud over you every time you take them out and everybody's waiting for you to fail and they've already quit on you, to keep believing in yourself. It's not an easy thing to do, but you don't have a choice.
He said he made some adjustments with working with Cranny before, the last couple of starts and it's really paid off. And Charlie Morton said the same thing. Charlie Morton said they worked on some things. Charlie realized he wasn't being directional to the ball. Like you've talked about this
pulling off.
Yeah. And Smiley was doing the same thing basically. But Charlie said since he's got back in line with and directional, that the results is good because he looks like himself now, like he did last year. At the end after his slow start last year, he kind of came around, and the rest of the season, that's the way he looks now. I mean, he was just dominant the last time out.
Yeah, and that's something hard to stick with too. But those little differences, man, that little difference in the ball coming at this angle instead of that angle out of your hand, or hiding it for an extra split second, at the major league level, every little tiny detail matters. And that's why it's hard, because you can just be a tiny little adjustment away and have a 6 ERA, and you make this small adjustment that the naked eye, somebody watching on TV, can't see any difference.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're back to who you were. You got a 2. But that's probably the hardest thing about playing in the major leagues, is just understanding that you're always that one tiny little adjustment away, but actually believing in it and finding out what it is. And then it works, and you got to think, did I get lucky, or did I actually nail this?
Yeah.
And am I back? And it's kind of like, you can't not believe in yourself as a major league player, but people on the outside can give up on you day in, day out. It doesn't really affect them at all. But yeah, good job on both those guys.
Yeah. I mean, you could be 37 and still take a few starts to realize, you're a little bit off, and then fix it, and boom, here we go.
Yep.
But he and Smiley taking no hitters deep into games the last couple. Charlie had one to the 7th inning. Took no hitter to the 7th inning the other day. So I thought the other thing yesterday, he didn't get a win and they lost the game, but I thought it was a huge day for Kyle Muller, because in his debut last week as a reliever, I mean, he's a starter and made his debut as a reliever and got shelled, gave up 4 hits. I mean, most of them weren't hard hit balls, but he gave up 4 hits in an inning, a couple of runs. And that's not the way you want your debut to go, but he wasn't down about it at all. And then he comes back the next week and gets a start. Thankfully for him, there was a doubleheader and they needed him. He made a start. And he looked like a top prospect. Yeah. Yesterday he faced DeGrom and he held his own for the 4 innings that Muller was in the game. I thought he looked terrific.
He did. I mean, it's tough because you'll hear the scouting report on guys and it's like, oh yeah, he's deadlifting a semi truck, or he throws 98, and you see the walks, and I'm just kind of like, well, it's another guy throwing hard with no clue where it's going, or something like that. And you can't judge a guy in his debut. It's really hard because you have so much adrenaline. You're so uncomfortable. There's so much going through your head. You seriously can't even feel the ball in your hands. You have so much adrenaline, right? Yeah. So it's tough to judge that. And I watched that inning and I was like, that's kind of who I thought might be coming up. But watching him yesterday, I never heard how good his breaking ball was.
Yeah.
His curveball and slider are legit major league pitches. I know he's throwing hard too, but that's what caught my attention, was those breaking balls he was throwing. And, maybe if he has some control issues or this or that, but with that secondary stuff, man, that's what fired me up and made me think, wow, this dude is a big time prospect.
The slider's been a difference maker for him that he worked on since last year. And he had really cut down the walks, had been way down in the last 3 starts in AAA. So it looks like he's really turned a corner. And then yesterday, obviously, that's a whole different thing to do it in the big league level against DeGrom at New York. I mean, that's in your first major league start. Impressive stuff.
I was more than impressed. Like that was a great showing for him.
I was down by the dugout at 3:45 yesterday, down there talking to Wash, and then I'm sitting there just standing, and then I see this big dude come out of the tunnel. Kyle Muller comes up the steps. He comes up the steps. He's got on shorts, socks, his shower sandals, shower shoes, and a t-shirt. Of course, he's ripped. And he walks up, looks around, is anybody looking? Nobody's looking. He just kind of doing his thing. And he walked out to the mound. They still got the tarp on the mound. He went to the top of the mound. He stands there looking in. He faked like he was throwing a couple of pitches, stood there, looked around. Then he walked off. It's the whole thing about 15 seconds maybe. And then he walks back towards me, and then he sees the Braves are out in left field stretch. And he walks out to them, gets directions to the bullpen, which, is just beyond like right center, City Field. So he walks out there alone, strides out there, long strides. He's a big dude. Goes in the bullpen, looks around. And then later after the game, I was talking to him about it. And he goes, I went out to the mound early just to get a feel of the stadium. I went to the mound when they had the tarp was on, and I just kind of looked around, so it wasn't foreign to me when I got out there. Then the same in the bullpen. And he said he looked up at the jumbotron, and they had his picture and DeGrom's, and they had DeGrom stats and Muller stats after his 1 inning appearance. And he said his numbers versus my 1 inning numbers. He goes, I wanted to take a picture of it so bad, but I was like, no, don't do that. Act like you've been here before. He goes, but no, it was super cool to watch and pitch, and obviously pitch against him. So he was able. I think that was really smart of him to do that. Some guys probably don't do that. Go out before the game started. They're probably worried about going out with somebody seeing him do that. But he just stood on the mound alone and looked in and got a feel for it. Looked around the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really do that when you get out there, you know, and there's 40,000 yelling at you. You got
You're like Bad News Bears if you do that in the Astrodome.
You got to lock in. But I mean, that's probably the biggest change from AAA to the big leagues. Is just the surroundings, you know, all of a sudden.
And that ballpark
can get crazy.
It's big. There's big decks all the way around.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's not
that's what threw me off in my debut. You know, I was cool warming up. I was kind of nervous. It was in Oakland. But when I was jogging out, I looked up and saw myself on the jumbotron, and that was when it was like the adrenaline kicked in, and I had to try to get a hold of myself. I didn't really. I mean, I was nervous for the whole thing, but once you see that big jumbotron and your face up on it, dude, that's when it's like, this is real. You know, this is happening, and it kind of sets in what a big deal what you're doing is, and that's when you got to kind of try to control it. So that's smart of him.
I think most people don't realize, they probably don't go to many minor league games or haven't been to one in a long time, how different the ballparks are. They forget most minor league stadiums have little, if any, outfield seats.
None.
And there's 2 decks tops, and there's small decks. You get into a major league stadium, there's like 3 or 4 decks. And, you know, some places 4, but there's usually at least 3, and they go up at a much harsher angle. And there's outfield seats in most places that go almost all the way around, if not all the way around. So you don't see open spaces out there in a road, cars, and apartment buildings.
Everything's on top of you.
Yes.
That's like that old Yankee Stadium. The first time I pitched there, you look up and they used to stack the seats really steep at the old parks.
Yeah.
So you look up and there'd just be 50,000 New Yorkers going crazy. And you just see this little hole at the top. And it was just all this other stuff was right on top of you. You know, I mean, those are things you just can't prepare for that pressure when you're in the minor leagues. And that's why it was good for some of those guys to pitch in empty stadiums last year, I think. But that's
like Ian Anderson, those guys. Yeah.
You got to find a way to channel between you and the pitcher and ignore the rest. And there's just so much more to ignore.
Yeah. Going from minor league park to that, it's got to feel like going to the Rome Coliseum, man, into the Lions Den with everybody just around you. DeGrom pitched as usual, allowed 1 hit, 5 scoreless innings, 6 strikeouts, lowered his ERA to 0.50. He's having an historic year, even though he's not going that deep in games. He's kind of protect all those little nagging things he's got. The Braves dared him to hit last night, intentionally walked him to bring or walked Muller.
Walked the dude to bring DeGrom up.
Muller, he walked. What was it? DeGrom came up and kind of dared him to swing, intentionally to bring up DeGrom as a 400 hitter, you know, or close to it this year. He's been hitting 400 most of the year. And he said he wasn't going to swing, you know, because he's had the nagging stuff, the shoulder, didn't want to aggravate it. But he did swing and popped out. He flew out. But
tried to drag bunt with 2 outs at the first pitch.
Yeah, he did. He was, and then DeGrom walked 2 guys, which for him is like walking 10 guys. But the crazy thing was, one of the 2 walks was Muller. He has not no opposing pitcher had reached base this season against DeGrom, which is crazy when you think about all the hits that Braves pitchers have given up 2 pitchers this year. But and walks, they've walked several pitchers as well. But no pitcher had reached against DeGrom until Muller draws an 8-pitch walk. And
that was the weirdest thing I saw all day.
Even for a 6'7" guy.
Yeah.
With 15 homers in his last year in high school, last time he really hit much.
Yeah, that's fine, but you got Acuna on deck.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out who's calling these pitches. I couldn't see the camera if DeGrom shook to him or if he was just trying to pad his strikeout numbers, but 3-2 slider to the pitcher with Acuna on deck. I didn't even know what to think about that. The best pitcher in the world. It's a rookie pitcher up there. You flip him a bunch of sliders.
I have got a quote from the Mets, our Mets guy, the Athletics Mets writer, gave me a quote from DeGrom. what he is, what he did on that. Let me find this real quick while you're but yeah, he threw him 3 straight sliders, and even Muller said about the walk, he said, man, I would be lying if I said that was all skill. He goes, there was some luck involved. He said, if he throw me the same slider they threw all of other guys, I would have been out.
Or the fastball.
Or the fastball. But he did it 15 homers his senior year at Dallas Jesuit High. He was one of the best home run hitters in the country. And nobody at that school has hit more than 7 since then. He had like 52 ribbies. I mean, huge slugging
throw
percentage.
Acuna in that league, how many does he hit?
Well, that's what Muller said. He goes, there's a little difference between some of the kids I was facing in high school and facing DeGrom.
Yeah.
But the quote from DeGrom on the Muller walk, he said, they're in the 3rd inning. I lost a little bit. I noticed I was flying open, and that's why I couldn't locate. I felt like I got really rotational. I noticed on those sliders, my front side was flying open, and that's why I couldn't throw the ball where I wanted. My arm slot was more toward third base, and I was getting around the baseball. One thing I will say, I did continue to throw the sliders to him, because I was thinking you need to throw a good one. I wasn't able to. I definitely don't want to walk the pitcher there with who's on deck, but I was fortunate enough to make pitches and get out of that inning. Yeah, most guys, that would have been a huge mistake facing Acuna.
Yeah, but when you're DeGrom, you get away with stuff like that.
Yeah. When you're DeGrom, you can even strike out Acuna a couple of times.
And he did, blew him away with a fastball.
Yeah. On Muller gave him just 1 hit, 1 run, and the hit should have been the hit should have been an error. There was a double that should have been caught in center field, went off his glove. There's 2 guys kind of converging, but it was an error all the way, but it was ruled a hit. I mean, he pitched great. Gave it 1 run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts in 4 innings, threw 33 strikes and 56 pitches. They pinch hit for him because they had 2 in scoring position in a 1-run game at that time. And
that's your only shot off DeGrom. I mean, I was thinking that too. You know, he could have gone deeper in there, but I mean, it's a good thing to get him out with a good start this first time, I thought, but you had to take your shot there because you don't know if DeGrom's coming out.
Yeah, and the way Pablo was hitting earlier in the year, I mean, I know he's been cold lately, but early in the year, he showed what he could do. He's 1 swing away from having 3 runs there. But they had told Muller, if your spot didn't come up, you're going back out for the 5th inning. But it came up. But Acuna and Muller said, tremendous job. I loved watching him pitch. We'd love to see him pitch like that in the future as well. He said, as far as that at bat off DeGrom, it was tremendous. I mean, especially against DeGrom. So here was Ian Anderson talking about Muller. They were drafted together, and Tucker Davidson, they all came up together. So Ian's loving seeing those guys up here now. But he said on Muller, he goes, that's awesome to have him and Tucker be up here. 2 guys I've played with since I was drafted. To see them put all the work that they've put in and to now get this chance is exciting. I want them to stay here, and Kyle threw the ball really well today. That was awesome. He said, I try to give him some advice from what little experience I have. It's awesome to have him here. I think he's underselling himself. He's got quite a bit of experience now, and that's got to be huge for Muller to have a guy he could talk to like Ian that had been together since they got drafted. And Ian's gone pitching
same age
now. Yeah.
Same age, come up. I mean, the best advice you can give to guys in that situation is to just explain them that a good pitch in AAA is a good pitch in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Because
trust your stuff.
You come up and you try to do too much, and you try to throw too hard. You try to be too nasty with your breaking ball. You fall behind. You're walking guys, and then you finally come in the zone and give up the 3-run homer. And everybody thinks you suck and you're overrated, but really you just got out of your own plan and you just got in your head a little bit. But I mean, when it's a guy that you came up with that's come up and he's done it too, and he's telling you like, look, man, it's the same game. It's one thing when Chipper Jones tells you it's the same game.
Right.
Like, well, you Hall of Famer, you've done this your whole life,
Right.
I mean, for you to downplay the big leagues is one thing, but if you hear it from another rookie that's saying, look, if you just make your pitches, you get outs, or somebody, more of a peer, because you're not going to look at Chipper as a peer ever when you're a young guy, or even Freddie, if Freddie's saying that to you, or a guy like, Soroka's been in the league long enough and dominated it. It's easy to have the confidence at that point, but if you can come up and just stick to your game plan and stay within yourself, generally you're going to do well. But most guys they come up and they try to do way too much. So hearing it from a peer would have some extra value.
Yeah, I can only imagine that, hearing it from a guy that you were you got drafted together, you reported together, like to the Gulf Coast League. You probably spent so many nights talking to each other about your dreams and what went wrong today, and man, this is harder than I thought. And then all of a sudden, you're watching one of the guy that you became good friends with is in the major leagues doing what he did last year,
Yep.
and then what he did in the postseason with all the bright lights, and then what Bryce Wilson did. And you're thinking, yeah, these are guys just like me.
Yeah.
I was better than them when we got drafted. So
Yep.
it's got to give you, like you said, so much more confidence coming from a guy like that. Be so much more real.
Yeah.
Than it is hearing from a guy like that you can't even really equate yourself with yet. You don't put yourself on the same.
That's how it was for me. Yeah. I mean, I came up and I'm looking at Richie Sexton, Adrian Beltre, Jared Washburn, JJ Putz. These guys are grown men to me.
Yeah.
I got nothing in common with them. They have families, mortgages, and I don't even have an apartment yet. Yeah. I mean, there's so much, even if they're only 5 or 10 years older, they seem like just different humans. You can't relate to them. But I had a buddy that I'd started an A-ball with that year, Mark Lowe, a fellow reliever, and he'd gotten up about 3 weeks before me. And when I got up there, he's like, look, man, it's going to be crazy. You're going to have this adrenaline. You're going to see guys you've seen on TV. They're going to intimidate you. I mean, I faced Frank Thomas in my debut. Yeah. I mean, you look at Frank Thomas in the box, and that's like, I don't know if I can go toe-to-toe with this guy. Yeah. But I talked to him, and he was just like, look, every time I've made a good pitch, it's been an out. Every time I've hung something, it's going to get hurt. But if you come up and you do what you've been doing all year, making good pitches, you're going to be fine. So just do as much as you can to stay within yourself. That helped me a ton because me and Mark were in A-ball that year together, and he's having success. Versus if JJ Putz, who throws 98 and just struck out Barry Bonds the week before, tells me like, yeah, you just got to make a good pitch. Yeah. It just doesn't resonate the same as when it's a guy that you can really relate to and feels like, same age and kind of same place as you in life.
Man, what facing the big hurt in your debut, you're like, I didn't see any guy like that in the batter's box in the minor leagues.
I got to intentionally walk him, but I didn't want any part of him.
He's like 6'4", 270, 290.
I just saw his legs look like tree. Yeah. I just saw 2 tree trunks in the batter's box with white pants on.
The big hurt was huge, man.
Even when I intentionally walked him, I threw that shit like 5 feet outside.
Muller said of his performance, and I don't know if you've seen an interview with this guy, but man, you got to love this guy's energy. He's like one of these guys that's just on high all the time, smiling, happy, so excited to be here. And he said, which is unusual for such a big guy. Usually they're kind of the more sullen type of, I'm too cool. Yeah. He's not like that. He's all excited, man, like a little dude. He said, I was pleased with it. It was exciting. And he said he got heckled a little bit in the bullpen. That was pretty cool. He goes, I hadn't had that happen in a long time. So that was cool. Said, I thought I did a way better job today than the other day of executing pitches with 2 strikes. And that was huge. And then I got behind a couple of guys, but I came back and made some good pitches. So that was also another plus that I was proud of. Gave us a chance as long as I was in there. And he did.
Yep. And he threw really good breaking balls. That was what I took away from it. When I saw those breaking balls from him, I said, he's going to be all right.
He was a 2-pitch pitcher, really, in the minors until last year. And he even throws a changeup occasionally. But yeah, the slider and the curve the sliders really made a difference, I think, with him.
Being a 2-pitch starter is really tough, especially in today's game. But
throw on 98, it don't matter. Everybody does.
That's what Fried does. Fried throws the curveball and the slider. I mean, it just gives the hitters, they can see spin, and it's still different speeds to throw them off just enough where they miss one. You could set them up different off your fastball. That made a big change in my career coming up when I started throwing cutter and a curveball instead of just a curveball. Yeah. I mean, but if you're going to be a lefty and you're not going to have a changeup, you got to have 2 breaking balls.
Here, before we go, I looked up Dallas Jesuits, or Jesuit Dallas, I think they call it. I looked up their school records. They have a site and they have all the records. I think they just started playing ball in 2015. I don't know if it's a new school or maybe they just started keeping records, but it seemed to me they just started playing that year. And they've got some list here. Highest batting average. Kyle is 8th on that with a 383 in 2015 and 4th with a 396 in 2016. Okay, so 2016 senior year, he hits 396. Highest slugging percentage, Kyle Muller, 849 in 2016 and 139 at bats. 849 slugging percentage, number 1. Highest on base average is 10th in that with a 482 that year. Then you go, we got most games played. He's 44. He leads that even 44 games played. So he played every game, even when he wasn't pitching, he played every day. Most games started, 44. He leads that. Most at bats, 139 and 128. He's first and second on that list. Most runs scored, 40. He's fifth on that. Here we go, the good stuff. Most hits, he's second with 55 in 2016. Most doubles, he's tied for first with 14, 2015. Most triples, the dude had 5 triples at 6'7". He had 5 triples as a senior. Then we go most home runs. He's first with 15 homers in 2016. Next on the list, there's 2 guys tied with 7. So he's hit twice as many homers as anybody else has hit there. And then he's got most RBIs, 52 in 2016. I think that's more than they played probably 40 games or something. If that, 30 games? No, 30 games with 149 ABs. Probably played like 35 games. 52 ribbies. Second on the list is 37. Most total bases, 118. He's first on that list. And then most intentional walks, 8, twice as many as anybody else on that list. Then we go down to pitching. And his pitching, let's see. God, they got extensive records here. Lowest earned run average. Kyle Muller, 2016, 0.59. So he was the Muller of seniors in Dallas that year. 0.59 in 76 innings. Lowest opponent's batting average. He's second with a 103 that year. And then most strikeouts per 9 innings. He's got the top 2. Number 1, he had 15.75 strikeouts per 9 innings in 2016, 14.98 in 2015 as a junior. In 76 innings, he had 15.75 per. And then one other one, he has let me say, 8 complete games that year in 2016. And 5 shutouts as a senior, 4 as a junior. And where was the total strikeouts? Just one more. I mean, this dude was
1 million.
Oh, most strikeouts. His junior year, he had 133 in 70 some innings. Second on the list is 111. He had 106 as a junior. Most strikeouts looking, he had 48 of his 133.
It's that curveball.
Anyway, this dude was a phenom.
It makes me feel so old when you talk about guys being in high school in 2016.
I was going to ask you, did you have a senior year like that?
I was pretty good. I think I had like a 1.9 ERA or something like that.
How many bombs did you hit?
0. I hit like 300, but just filleted balls to left field. I had a long swing. You know, I mean, that's the thing is Texas kids get so much more coaching, and there's
they play so many more
Texas,
games.
California, Florida. Those kids are so far ahead when you come out of high school.
Travel ball and everything. You probably played 100 games a year the last couple of years in high school.
Yeah, we'd start our season, say March 1st, and I've been throwing a ball since February 20th. You know, I mean, it's just totally different. But those are impressive high school numbers. But
he's like that proverbial guy, though, the kid in Little League that was a foot taller than everybody else, and he just kept growing. He's like Kelly Leak, but he just kept growing.
Yeah.
So in high school, he's the guy that could have been the best athlete in any sport that he played. If he wanted to play football, he would have been a quarterback at 6'7", you know, with the scholarship to Texas. But guys specialize nowadays. Otherwise, he would have been a 3-sport guy back in the day.
Did he specialize? I wonder if he did. Oh, he did.
But like if he was in a small town, like if he went to high school like I did in Kansas, this guy would have played 3 sports. He would have been the center on the basketball team, averaged 30 a game. He would have been quarterback or a tight end on the football team. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But Texas or California or Georgia now with the, the last 20 years, the East Cobb and all that, they're going to specialize. So it's good and bad. If I had a kid, I'd want a kid to play to everything and try everything. You don't get burned out, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely don't like the specializing. I just think you pick up skills in other sports too. You know, there's different movements. You know, baseball's so rotational. I think it's hard on your body when you get older, just always having rotated one way. Playing football, taking hits, playing basketball, changing directions and all that stuff. I think it makes you a more well-rounded athlete. And also just the burnout. You know, you see a kid that And that's another thing. Yeah, I wasn't even that good at baseball till my junior year. I was just kind of middle of the pack and fit in. And then all of a sudden, my senior year, I started throwing 92 and got drafted.
Yeah.
But if I'd been specializing in baseball the whole time, I wouldn't have gotten to play basketball and other sports and enjoyed them. I just think there's so many parents that sell out thinking because their kids mature at 12 or 13 and better than everybody at that age that they're going to the major leagues and they start pumping all this money into it. Then they get to their senior year, they were 5'10" in sixth grade. They're 5'10" when they graduate. It's like they feel like a failure, and they had a job all the way through high school. That thing bothers me a lot. I think kids could enjoy youth sports a lot more without that, but some guys, it does work out for.
Yeah, some guys it works out for. I think it's case by case, but I think for the most part, I'm with you on the burnout. I think some kids, by the time they get to the big leagues, it's just a job, or by the time they get the pro ball in the minors, and they fail for the first time, and it feels like, it's a job.
Yeah.
Those guys that have specialized all the way through high school, I think it's a different feeling for them, and they start to get better at baseball when they're playing it year round after that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if for the kids it works out for, it's great, but I just think for the kids that it doesn't, and their dad's just on their ass and they training all year round and pumping all this money into it. There's all this pressure on them. I just feel like they don't get to enjoy actual youth sports. It turns into a job too early.
And especially pitchers, you pile up that use on the arm. And so many of them have Tommy John by the time they're in high school or shortly thereafter, college. And I think that's a lot lower in the guys that are multi-sport and only play, 20 game high school season. They don't play 100 games a year of travel ball, two seasons of that and all that. I think those guys.
I'd like to see numbers on that. Guys from the northern states versus guys from the southern states and arm injuries. I'm sure it's out there.
All right. Well, onward and upward. This is the start of a big stretch for the Braves. They got 2 more against the Mets and then 4 against the Reds. And like we've said, I think we're going to know a lot more about this team at the end of the week. They're 5 games out of first now. They were 7.5 when we talked last time.
Oh, I was looking at the Padres record yesterday. They're 5 games back.
How about them, man?
They might be 4, but they're not though. They're I think they're 10 games over 500.
Well, they had that stretch where they weren't playing very well, and now they're playing well again, and they've kept the Dodgers within.
They're 2.5 back of the Dodgers, but they're 4.5 back of the Giants. Their record's 42 and 30, or 43 and 32. They're 11 games over 500.
And they're leading the wild card, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe as a fan you'd feel better being 4.5 or 5 back playing so well, but for me it's like I look at it the other way: is the Braves haven't even hit their stride yet, and they're only 5 games back.
And we've seen the Mets. I watched them last night. They're a flawed team, man. I mean, they're playing well. And they got DeGrom, but if they lose DeGrom for any stretch,
it's a wrap.
Forget it. And their lineup, you look at their lineup, and it's not that impressive, man. I mean, they're not the division is a bunch of flawed teams.
You don't play them and think they're better than the Braves.
No, exactly. And the Nationals are right there with the Braves now too. They're both 5 back. So I'm shocked that the Giants have hung on this long. I mean, I keep waiting for them to go 2-8 in a 10-game stretch and everybody catch them. And they're just the pieces are better than the sum of the parts are better than the team is better than the sum of the parts. You know what I mean?
I feel like San Francisco's always had that though.
Yeah, when they were winning they had a lot of talent, but they didn't have clearly the most talent when they won the 3 World Series in 5 years.
Yeah.
They had Bochy leading the show, and they just had a team. I'll give credit.
If they hang on, though, a wild card series between LA and San Diego, that will be.
People be like, never mind that Padres-Dodgers rivalry. Remember, this is the rivalry.
Yeah, bring it back.
Yeah.
But they'd have to, the Dodgers would have to beat the Padres in the wild card just to have a shot at it.
I got to give credit to Kapler, man. I ripped him to shreds 2 years ago. I mean, and he's done a really good job out there. I think he's learned a lot from his failures in Philly.
Yeah.
How to handle players a lot better and not be such an ass and think he knows everything. He's done a good job out there. So.
And I think you got a different type of leadership in San Francisco with Crawford, Posey,
no doubt.
Those guys that have
Posey. Yep.
It's probably an easier transition for him if he's old school. I think they're probably a more old school team.
Yeah, Bryce Harper could have used a guy like Posey on his team.
instead of Papelbon trying
Yeah.
to choke him.
Yeah. Try to choke out your closer.
Little softer approach.
All right. Well, we'll do this again on Friday, probably one of those
All right.
days. And since it's from Cincinnati,
Cool.
7:55 is real. We're out.
All right.
That was good.